The NFL news has been pouring in as we get closer and closer to the November 4th NFL trade deadline, and this severely impacts the Miami Dolphins in a lot of different ways in terms of their own trades that could be made, but also some players on their practice squad are getting poached. We'll get into all the news on today's show. I am Nick Roloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. We're going to start with the trade that happened yesterday afternoon by the New England Patriots when they made a deal with the San Francisco 49ers. They traded away edge rusher Keion White, a former second-round pick out of Georgia Tech, in a pick swap. A seventh-rounder went along with White to San Francisco for a sixth-rounder. You might be asking, Nick, why is this big news for the Dolphins? How does this impact us? Well, San Francisco was a team that most people labeled the best suitor for Jaelan Phillips or Bradley Chubb in a potential trade. They obviously had Nick Bosa suffer that ACL injury that took him out for the season, and with them continuing to play winning football, they need to add an edge rusher. Well, they do that in Keion White, but does this take them out of the trade realm for either Bradley Chubb or Jaelan Phillips, ultimately affecting the chances of a trade for Miami before the deadline? We'll talk more about it here in a second, but I want you to share today's video on Twitter or X. I want to continue to spread our content across social media. If you tag me at Nick_Roloff, we'll give you a shout out on a video in the next couple of days. So go tag me and share the video. Well, when you think about the top edge suitors, if you will, teams that would trade for an edge before the deadline, San Francisco was on that list. You would add the Cowboys, Lions, Buccaneers, and Colts, 4 teams alongside San Francisco looking to shore up that defense and maybe make a push to go all in for the playoffs, especially those teams in the NFC with that conference being completely wide open. You could argue the Colts with the best record in the NFL also wanted to go all in, adding another pass rusher in the AFC. But if the San Francisco 49ers remove themselves from that discussion and would not even consider making a deal for Jaelan Phillips or Bradley Chubb, that could hurt the trade value for Miami because less teams looking for an edge, less teams calling Miami, less leverage for the Dolphins equals less of a return for Chris Grier in this front office. I have long projected Jaelan Phillips' trade value to be around a 4th-round pick, maybe a conditional 4th, maybe even a 3rd-rounder if the value gets real up with a big, robust market. Bradley Chubb's trade value likely around a 6th-round pick. Those could either stay where they're at, but I was hoping to get a 5th for Chubb if you dealt him away, or maybe even a 3rd for Jaelan Phillips. But for that to happen, you are going to need a bidding war. And with the 49ers out of the mix, I don't know if that will be the case. Now, it could still ultimately come to fruition with teams like Detroit and Dallas really needing to add more to their defensive line. So maybe you could hold out hope. But San Francisco already trading for an edge, not named someone on Miami, certainly hurts your cause. Now, I did want to share this quote from Dan Graziano of ESPN in an article that came out earlier this morning, saying that he believes one of the edge rushers on Miami will be traded, but he doesn't know which one. Miami still wants to put a product on the field that is at least respectable. Started 2-6 last year and recovered to win 6 of their next 8, so they know it's possible to get back to respectability, even if that doesn't result in a playoff spot. Now, I have a lot of thoughts on that report. One, you are concerned about putting a respectable product on the field, yet you still employ Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel. So that is really hypocritical, if you will, if I'll say that. 2, this team is not making the playoffs. 3, consistent reporting, because Adam Schefter said the same thing just a couple days ago. He said that he is projecting and expecting one of Bradley Chubb or Jaelan Phillips to be traded, but doesn't expect both of them to be dealt. One of them could ultimately go. I do think this game tomorrow against the Ravens means a lot. If Miami somehow comes out and beats the Ravens at home, I sadly truly do believe that Mike McDaniel and Chris Grier could convince Stephen Ross this team is capable of going on a run and Miami doesn't trade anyone. If they lose, I think it's abundantly clear at 2-7. All right, let's trade people. But if you win and you're 3-6, I don't know, maybe Stephen Ross could be convinced and so could Chris Grier. But predict it for me. If one does get traded, who is more likely? The younger edge rusher Jaelan Phillips or the veteran Bradley Chubb? Go down and answer today's pinned comment. I kind of answered this on a video yesterday, but if you did not watch it, I'll answer very shortly here. I think it is without a question Jaelan Phillips. One, he is younger. He doesn't have any years on his contract beyond this one, playing on his current fifth-year option. But he's also younger. He's 26 and cheaper. Bradley Chubb has a $31 million cap hit for next season. If the Dolphins trade him right now during the deadline, they would have a $23.8 million dead cap next season and only save about $7 million. They could wait till the offseason and cut or trade him post-June 1st and save $20 million, only have a $10 million dead cap. So I don't really find it worth it for Miami to deal away Bradley Chubb now for a day 3 pick and take on that dead cap hit. So if they do trade one, I expect it to be Phillips, who holds more trade value. More NFL news from yesterday in the trade market. The Patriots were active. They made another trade with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They sent Kyle Duggar, their safety, to Pittsburgh. Same trade as the one with Keion White. They traded Duggar and a 7th to get a 6th-round pick. But why does this impact Miami? Well, the Patriots, after trading away Kyle Duggar, only had 3 safeties on their roster: Craig Woodson, Del Pettis, and Jalen Hawkins. Well, needing another safety to that group, they actually poached one off of Miami's practice squad because #of course. And it is a darling of mine because of course it was. John Saunders Jr., who has spent the entire year on the Dolphins practice squad, and if you do not remember the name, was a UDFA this year from Ole Miss. Miami gave him above $200K guaranteed out of the draft, signifying they really wanted to bring him into their preseason roster. Absolutely brutal for personal reasons. I was really high on John Saunders Jr. I made multiple videos in shorts about how I believe he could be someone that made this Dolphins roster after waiver cutdown day. Didn't stay in the practice squad, but now is on a 53-man roster in the NFL, and it is the division rival New England Patriots. More coming up here in just a bit, but this episode is sponsored by Ethos. Have you or a friend ever experienced loss, which has you thinking about how to secure your family's financial future? Well, with life insurance through Ethos, your family is protected. Life insurance is a perfect way to make sure you're covered. Right now, you can get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There's no complicated process, and it's 100% online, no medical exam required. You just answer a few health questions. Some policies start as low as $2 a day, billed monthly. As of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That is ethos.com/NFL Daily. Application times may vary. Rates may vary. Links in the description and comments of today's video. John Saunders Jr. is going to New England really does stink because I thought he had a future with Miami, and I think he played really well in the preseason as well. But when you watched his film at Ole Miss and you watched him in the preseason, you can tell his physicality stood out as well as his ability to force turnovers. In his final season playing at Ole Miss, he had multiple interceptions and multiple forced fumbles forced. He has a knack for creating havoc. And during the preseason, he was pretty solid, graded out in the mid to low 60s in overall coverage, run defense, and was really good in coverage, allowing just a completion percentage of 67%, only 30 yards, so 7.5 yards per catch, and a QB rating when targeted of 38.9. I mentioned he's a ball hawk. He did have an interception in the preseason finale against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And for him to be poached right now is actually brutal timing. You could make the argument he may have been a game day elevation for Miami due to the injury sustained to safety Ashton Davis. Now, Miami is usually rocking with 3 safeties on the field at all times, and it projects to be Minkah Fitzpatrick, Ifeatu Melifonwu, and Dante Trader Jr. this Thursday. They also have Jordan Colbert, a safety linebacker hybrid, so maybe they wouldn't have activated John Saunders Jr. for a game day elevation. But you never know. It could have been the case, and if Davis's injury is more serious, well, then Saunders Jr. could have had more of a chance to be activated to the 53-man roster. So New England, unfortunately, used that timing to their advantage and brought the former Ole Miss safety into their active roster. We are under a week away from the NFL trade deadline. Miami likely will make a deal at some point, so make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a piece of Dolphins news. Final part of today's show, an unsung trade candidate on the Dolphins that we have really not discussed. We've talked a lot about Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Bradley Chubb, Jaelan Phillips, Jalen Wright. But should we be talking about Matthew Judon? Because ESPN in an article today listed Judon as a player who could be dealt away at the deadline. And it comes in from ESPN's Dolphins beat reporter, Marcel, who says Judon, just playing 32% of the snaps this season, has not generated a lot of pressures. And the pass rush depth on Miami with Chubb, Phillips, and Chop Robinson provides the ability to trade Judon to clear more playing time for guys like Cameron Good or Quentin Bell or Chop Robinson. And it's hard to disagree because Matthew Judon has been a non-factor this season. And I never expected him to be elite. I was pretty excited when the Dolphins signed him in mid-August or right in late July. I forget when they ultimately signed him. It might have been early August. Because I thought him as your fourth edge rusher could be really dynamic behind Chop, Jalen, and Chubb. But he has really just not seen the field a lot, only playing in those 32% of snaps this season. And he hasn't been productive whatsoever. Only 8 tackles, no sacks, no TFLs in the run game. He's just looked washed, unfortunately. Former top edge rusher in the NFL. On PFF has a pass rush win rate of 3.3%. Yeah. Pretty brutal. Which is why I also think you won't get anything in return for Matthew Judon if you did trade him. For example, we talked about the Keion White trade earlier. Keion White has not been good over the past year and a half for the New England Patriots, but they had to do a pick swap where they traded White and a 7th to get a 6th. I got to be honest, I don't know who in the world would trade a 6th round pick, even if they get a 7th round pick in return and Matthew Judon. So if you trade Judon, it would likely just be for a 7th round pick. Heck, it even might be a 7th round pick swap where you trade a 7th in Judon to get another 7th round pick. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I don't know a team out there that would be trading for Matthew Judon because he really isn't good whatsoever. But if the Dolphins do make a trade, we would notify you first over on Twitter. So go follow me at Nick_Roloff. And remember, if you share today's video, please do, and please tag me at Nick_Roloff to get a shout out.